Why is it? Okay.
Shall we begin?
Yes, Kavya, ma'am.
Okay, so a very good evening to all of you. Hello, hi, namaste, Jai Shri Krishna, and I hope you all have, as much excitement as I have at this moment because, every time we connect, I feel that energy in the group that yes, we all have so much in common, not just in our personal professional lives, but also as people, as humans, we are seeking the same goal, right? And that is we want the learning to never stop. We want us to keep growing, to keep exploring, be it traveling places, to traveling miles in our careers. So with this positive thought, let us begin with today's session. But before I officially begin, it's very important to get to know each other better. You all have already made me feel like a celebrity, knowing that none of you is new here, and all of you have actually known me somewhere or the other. Some of you have already seen my content, some have been a part of a session previously. And yeah, before I actually start with your introduction first, let me see a couple of you. In fact, the objective is to see all of you, but I know it's a tougher job than, teaching finance and talking about so many other areas. So I don't think I would want to put a lot of effort on that. Let's wait for a minute so that I can see all the beautiful, excited faces in front of me. So urge you all to do the same. Take a minute, do it, and yeah, let's flaunt about who we are, right? I mean, we all have something we might have achieved in our life. The reason I'm here talking in front of you is because there is something I believe I've done better. There is something that I have done that I can share with the wider audience. So if I'm sitting here confident, smiling, talking to you all, I want this session to be led by you, right? So all of you who attended my session probably know who I am. I would definitely again talk a little about my background, but then the objective of my purpose has always been that you guys lead the session. I'll be here supporting you all in any way possible. So I'm making the agenda of this session very clear since the beginning. I will be presenting things, I will be asking you to solve those things. I'm sure there are people who have an exposure in finance. Some of you are yet to enter into it. For some of you, it will be more like a revision. For some of you, it will be more like, an everyday practice that you do or you might have done at some point of time. So before we do that, can I be sure that all of you are mentally, physically present in this session? So maybe a thumbs up, maybe something on the chat box that yes, I'm excited, I'm ready. I have not logged in from my phone just for the heck of it. I am sitting here, dedicated my time to learn something out of it. Great. So I see some of you. In fact, I want all of you to be ready. Yes, I want some support on video. I mean, what's the harm? Had I been a recruiter, you all would have had your videos on, isn't it? So let's assume that I am that one dreaded interviewer, or that recruiter who's asked you to switch on your cameras. Let's do that eventually, right? So okay, so before I begin, yeah, thanks Vignesh. Since you have it on, a word about you. Let me hear who you guys are, and I will definitely talk about who I am. So yes, Vignesh, can I have a brief introduction or maybe a bit of a background about you? So don't speak your name. We know your name already. Talk about your latest qualification and then talk about what kind of career roles are you willing to enter into or you're trying to transition into, right? So let's start with that. Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. Currently, I'm pursuing my first year MBA. So I'm currently interested to pursue in finance,
Okay. So
and my
you
career
are
interest is in my career interest in like investment banking, valuation analysis, typically
great.
corporate finance.
Very nice. And you've already taken the first step, Vignesh, because let me tell all of you, until and unless you are camera shy, things are going to be hard for you. Okay, I know that we all have these, insecurities that maybe I don't look good in camera, I can't face the camera, I can't look straight. But jab tak aap karoge hi nahi, then how will you, feel or be a part of those uncomfortable situations to eventually arrive at a place where you're comfortable doing anything? So it's good to see you on camera first, Vignesh, and I'm happy to know that you have started early. You have a clarity that okay, I'm in my first year, and since I am in my first year, my preparation should begin at the right time. So starting at the right time is the most important step, according to me, and you'll all agree with it, right? So I'll come back to you, Vignesh, and your questions at the end of the session. Hi, Mukund. Welcome to the session. A bit about you.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. Recently, I completed my master's in business analytics and advanced marketing. So I'm 23 pass out. Before that, I had my BTech in mechanical. Currently, I'm working in a banking sector as a BI analyst over there. So it's been almost 7 months over there. And over here, I'm just attending this session for knowledge purpose, like to upgrade myself. That's the reason.
Perfect. That's very nice to know, Mukund. All the best for your career ahead. And I would personally be happy to help you in any case, whatsoever. Right. So the objective I wanted you all to introduce yourself is because I wanted to know anyone who has a prior experience in valuation or have done financial modeling, has been aware of the concepts in finance. Let's say, have you heard of what is EV? What is market multiples? What is enterprise value? What is equity value? Anyone who knows of that, I'll come to that. So hi Vikas, good to see you on camera. Let's hear about you too. And meanwhile, all of you, please
Uh,
let me know in the chat if you know valuation, etc. Yeah,
Hi Kavya. I'm
yeah.
from Bangalore. I completed my MBA in finance in 2022. Um, what was my what I did. So I'm going to continue my job.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Vikas, but I couldn't hear you. Could anyone of you hear him?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. I'll. Can you type in the chat box, Vikas, whatever you spoke? I will
Yeah.
certainly, yeah, right. Fine. So, I mean, let's begin. So, okay, fine. Tell me, all of you, irrespective of the background, right? How do you begin understanding a concept? So tell me, how would you start studying a subject? Let's say you are a data analytics person, I am a finance person. How do I begin? Where do you begin? Like, what is that first step for you? So let me articulate it in a way that, when you build a model or when you're doing some sort of analysis, the first step is to gather data, and out of that data, you want to extract information or knowledge. So the data goes in as an input, and what comes out is the decision making, right? It's the knowledge. So tell me, in any case whatsoever, whenever you start a course, you start a career, right? You start any subject for that matter. What is the first step you take? In any case, what's the first step to begin your preparation on anything?
Understanding basics.
Understanding the basics, the fundamentals, right? We should know that what should be done first and what should be studied the next, so that we don't mess up on the systematic way of studying a thing. Sticking to accounting and finance, because that is what the session is about. We will come to valuation, but it's very important to understand why valuation, right? When is the valuation needed? Or before valuation, is there a skill that I must know, or are there some basics or fundamentals that I must be aware of? And hence, all of you who've had a prior commerce background, or might have read about accountancy, etc., in your life, tell me that what is accountancy? Anyone? So I think that is the first thing we read about when it comes to accounting, finance, commerce. What is commerce? Commerce is all about the sellers and the buyers coming in, entering into a transaction, and then there's a inflow and outflow of cash happening, or there is credit and debit happening, right? So we'll not get into the technicals, but I want you to tell me that जो भी आपको पता है about accounting, what is accounts, whatever you guys know, tell me. And tell me, financial statements prepare करने से पहले, what all do you all do? What are the steps involved till the point you finally have the financial statements in your hand? What do
Yes,
you think?
accounting.
Right, this is a subject that you study. tell me, Vishnu, that how, what is the first step you begin with? So you always begin with understanding what are those accounts, what are the books that a company or a business prepares, right? So when you
Yeah.
start to understand those books, there are some terms involved. Abhi, I'm not entering into finance. I'm talking about the prerequisite of finance, which is you should be preparing your books of accounts, because those books of accounts will help you prepare the financial statements, and those financial statements will further help you to forecast the future of the business, right? Or rather, any asset or security. So, how do you arrive at the financial statements? Is my question.
First
Think.
accounting, and then
Yes.
ledgers, and then trial
Mm-hmm.
balance, and trial balance into financial statements.
Correct. That's a good flow. So you first start, you know, documenting everything, right? You create an evidence of the transactions you enter into. So what is that evidence called? आप एक शॉप पे जाते हो, you buy an iPhone, you buy a phone, you buy anything you buy. What is it that you get in return from the seller?
Bill,
Invoice.
Bill. What is it called? Yeah, it's called an invoice, right?
invoice.
So you get an invoice, or you get a credit note, or you get a debit note. So you have some evidences, you have those vouchers. How do you think the company, or any, rather any business, any organization uses these vouchers? What do they do with it? क्या करते हैं वो
Account,
इतनी documents का?
account,
Accounts
summarize.
maintain करते हैं, right? They summarize
Just to pass
everything.
the
Now,
entry.
yeah, come again, I couldn't get you.
Just to pass the entry of debit and
Correct. So just to pass the entry, that is what they're trying to say, is that we are a business, we will expand in the future, we will have so many transactions to enter into, तो उन सब का एक well documented format होना चाहिए, so that we know at what date we entered into what transaction, how much we owe to the other person, and how much the other person owes to me. As simple as that, right? We all do it, we all try and manage our finances. वो अलग बात है कि हो नहीं पाता है. So let's not talk about it. But in any case, right? So businesses have to do it, because for them, it's not about dealing in hundreds and thousands. Sometimes it's about lakhs of rupees. Right. So we know that we start with documenting these statements. We have those evidences ready. We use these evidences to record the transactions. Now, what is recording these transactions called in accounting terms? One of you mentioned it.
Journal.
Journal. So what is journal? Journal is you chronologically record the transactions. What does the word chronological mean? Chronology का मतलब क्या होता है?
Yes.
when the transaction happens and reports on the same day.
Uh, okay, no, come again. Think. Okay, the statement is the transactions are recorded in a chronological order. What does this line mean?
As per dates already.
As per
So
golden rules.
as per the counting, right, that's one thing, but also as and when they are entered into, which means a transaction that is
Approximately.
entered a previous day will be entered first, then the next day, and then the next day, right? So there must be a column of a date. तो आपने देखा होगा, आप कभी भी एक journal देखोगे, there is always a column of a date, and then the particulars, and then the debit and credit, right? So golden rules of debit and credit comes into the picture when you have to decide the nature of account. When you have to decide कि कोई भी account एक asset है, liability है, खर्चा है, income है, या क्या है? Is it a real person? Is it a real account? Is it an expense account, liability account, asset account, etc.? So that comes later. But we are clear on the part that we record the transactions, and उस book को कहते हैं journal. Now, is just recording the transactions enough? No, right? आप record करे जा रहे हो, करे जा रहे हो, करे जा रहे हो, but उसमें there are hundred things that are involved. बैंक बहुत बार repeat हो रहा होगा, आपका cash कभी आ रहा होगा, कभी जा रहा होगा, right? You must be giving goods on credit. जब हम किसी को कोई चीज credit पे देते हैं, so what is that person called? Like,
Uh,
so, हाँ, उसको हमें कल को पैसे देने हैं. He owes us money. What will we call him?
Creditors.
He owes us money.
receivable.
Trade receivables. What else?
Debtors.
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 Debtors. Now, have you heard of of the accounting rule? Debit what comes in, credit what goes
Credit what
out.
goes out.
So
Real account.
he's a debtor to us. So good way of remembering it is debit what comes in. कल को उससे पैसा आएगा. So he's a debtor. Simple. I'm not complicating it. Now think of what will you call a person जिसको you are the one who will be paying. What is that person called? A creditor,
Creditors.
right? So
Creditors.
you also used the word trade receivable. So
Yes.
receivable means a debtor, right? What will you call a creditor?
Payables.
ट्रेड पेबल्स
Never.
इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट ठीक है रूल्स पे नहीं आ रहे हैं द सेशन इज नॉट अबाउट अकाउंटिंग रूल्स एंड assumptions and concepts etc I just wanted to tell you you prepare the journal right using all of these debit credit rules that you must already be aware of now let's move to the second step what is the second step I told you बहुत सारे banks हैं बहुत सारे transactions cash के हुए हैं then you have creditors and debtors in your account in your transactions what do you do next
The next step is to create the ledgers.
Right. So summary wise account of every transaction, right? So you categorize every transaction as either it's a bank, it's a cash, it's a creditor, it's a debtor, it's some asset liability. All of these things are then summarized as a single table. So अगर मैं बोल रही हूँ cash account, तो cash account will have all the plus and minus of cash. The debtor account will have all the plus and minus of a debtor, so that we eventually know whether we have to whether we still have to take something from him or we have to pay to him. I'm not getting into the details again. You guys know what a ledger is. Next step is trial balance, as we already know. What is a trial balance? Quickly. Hmm.
Classification of assets and liabilities.
Just the assets and liabilities?
Mhm.
Think. So I'm assuming that all of you are either MBA freshers, you have some exposure and you've joined. So you are the ones who should be answering, and I'm giving you time. Tell me a formal definition of what is a trial balance. You can Google it, it's fine. Just tell me what it means. Just as you would tell a recruiter or an interviewer, or rather when you join a corporate. It is a summary of what?
Ledger portfolios, like
Leisure portfolios. Does it sound right to you, Vipul?
Summary of
it's
credit and debits.
yes.
Summary of all the debits and credits. Okay, makes sense. Fine. So we'll go ahead, we'll go read more about it. I'm coming back to the main topic, that is, we know that. So at this point, something ends and something begins. So जब आपका trial balance बन जाता है, which process comes to an end? Anyone? The bookkeeping process comes to an end. ठीक है
Final
हमने book
accounts.
yeah so now we'll start with the next step, which is preparation of financial statements, right? Now tell me, what kind of companies are expected to publish their financials?
Public limited.
Public limited companies. So we know that there are two types broadly, public and private. So let's say, so there are a lot of differences in terms of, the legal regulatory requirements, but I'm simplifying it as, for a private entity, you would not find the financials easily available, right? But for the public company, since they are authorized by their memorandum of association to publish those financials and communicate it to the end users, you will always find a public company's annual reports, financial statements, quarterly reports, their investor presentations, con calls, etc. So we know that a public company might be easy to value. However, a private company might not be that easy to value, but then it might have some public companies that we can take help of. Just remember this for now, right? Okay, now quickly, within the next 2 minutes, what all financial statements are there? Fatafat. And I am gonna go on mute. You guys will discuss amongst yourself and tell me the five financial statements that are there. Quickly.
P&L, cash flow, balance sheet, statement of changes in equity, mm,
Hmm.
statement of total income.
Okay. ठीक है. Good try. I'm waiting for others because I this has to be an interactive session. It's for you all. So I generally speak less and I want you all to contribute equally because सीख के आपको जाना है कल को आपको यूज करना है मैंने तो कर लिया अपने कॉर्पोरेट में ये चीज यूज so anyone who wants to try speaking a minute about each statement. Okay, let's start with the first one. He mentioned profit and loss account or the income statement. Anyone who wants to explain what an income statement is? Tell me,
It's
how do
about
you?
profit or
Yeah.
loss.
That's there in the state. When I said profit and loss account, that means it's about profit and loss. Try to give me a definition जो आप एक recruiter को दोगे. I am assuming all of you are interview ready, right? Like you are searching for a job or will search for a job, and what I'm asking is not related to your MBA, it is related to your graduation. So just try. Anyone who knows can speak. Simple question है, what is an income statement? You said it correct that it shows the profit and loss, but tell me more about it.
We get to know the expenses, losses, the income,
Hi,
source of income.
hi Kavya.
Yeah. Hi.
My name is Namrata. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so profit and loss is basically starting from the top line, sales, and then the whole process until we find the profit, which is the bottom line. It includes all sales and everything. And I wasn't saying anything because it will be unfair. I come from chartered accountancy background, so it's a little unfair to
No, I
other
think,
people attending.
yeah, I agree. But then, if you will speak up, I'm sure they'll remember something and they'll speak up, because that's the objective. And it's good to know. So, guys, we even have chartered accountants in our session, and they are people who would be able to guide you in the right way as to if you're speaking, if what you're speaking is right or not, right? So, what are we here for? You're here to learn in a way that we interact and we see that what I am speaking, is it in the right direction or not. So she mentioned something about the top line and the bottom line. So I hope most of you know that the top line is indicated as the revenue from operations, and the bottom line we refer to as PAT,
Profits.
or the profit after tax, right? There could be a loss also. So you always answer. My suggestion is, you don't always be very optimistic about everything when you answer in an interview. When you answer, you always say that the bottom line could be a net profit after tax, or it could also be a net loss, right? So try to take every scenario into the picture. But again, as it seems that most of you are not willing to speak, have no option but to skip this entirely, and I can move directly to the case study. So I'm giving you one last chance, all of you. Do you want me to skip directly, or you want me to continue talking about the financial statements? And if
Continue.
yes, then I want an interaction. I want three or four of you to speak that yes, we'll contribute. Otherwise, I'm dropping off right here. Arun, I think if you can intervene, this is really discouraging me. Otherwise, I'm a very motivated person. But then, if it's for you and you can't speak, then it really doesn't make sense.
You can continue, ma'am.
Fine. So I
Continue,
hope
ma'am.
that, because it feels very discouraging. Anyway, right. So we talked about the income statement, the P&L. What else is it called? So let's talk about what these statements are called, right? It's called the earnings statement, it's called the profit and loss, or the income statement. Tell me, is an income statement prepared at a point of time or over a period of time?
Over a period of time.
Over a
Correct.
period of time.
And for this reason, we mentioned that for the year ended, right? So for the year ended, it's
Yeah.
for the whole year. Correct. Okay, and the bottom line, is the PAT. I think, Namrata, if you would not mind, can you just walk us through the structure of the income statement as you mentioned? So it starts with revenue, and probably you can just, yeah,
Sure. After revenue, we'd get the direct expenses, which are directly related to our business. Then we have indirect expenses, and yeah, then the profit. This is very brief,
very basic, yeah. So extending
and
to what you said, Namrata, maybe we can also let them know a bit about what is EBITDA, EBIT. I'm assuming they know, but let's just repeat a little on that. So if you want, you can continue, and probably we can talk about the gross profit first. So as she said, we
yeah,
subtract the direct expenses to arrive at the gross profit, right? And
correct.
what is the next step then?
Next, we uh, subtract the operating expenses, the selling and general
Yes,
admin expenses, the rent and everything, the employee expenses, and
correct.
even expenses that are necessary as per the law. That is, we can call it EPF and everything, plus the what do you call it? Um, I'm not getting the word, but yeah, all the expenses and then the bottom line.
Correct. So in short, you subtract the SG&A expenses,
Yeah.
selling general and administrative expenses, which includes employee expenses, cost of goods sold, any expense that is indirectly related to the production of goods and services. Once this is subtracted, you arrive at EBITDA, which is the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, which means you all should also know what is the difference between D and A, since it is mentioned separately, right? We have not mentioned EBIT. We've said EBITDA. So there's a A also. So quickly tell me how is depreciation different from amortization,
Depreciation is a decrease in the value of a wear and tear of an asset.
right?
Amortization is the what do you say? Increase in the value of an asset.
That's not correct. Try again. Try to look for an answer online. It's fine. We are not in a quiz or some competition, right? We're here to learn. So try
It's
to
an
find that
intangible
answer.
asset.
Correct.
Writing off assets, amortization.
So both indicate writing off, right? The first one, that is depreciation, is primarily concerned with the wear and tear of tangible assets. Tangible assets are those which can be seen and touched, like your building, PP&E, plant and machinery, right? Your spare parts, etc., office equipments. However, your intangible assets also depreciate in value, such as goodwill, your patents, trademarks.
No, no, ma'am, no, goodwill not amortized, na?
Very good. So goodwill is not amortized, it is impaired, right? So Sehdev, I was waiting for such interactions, but again, it seems आप लोग सब mute करके बैठे हो, इसीलिए I didn't introduce the concept of impairment, depletion, etc. But if you know, it's very good that goodwill, despite being an intangible asset, is not said to be amortized. It is
Goodwill
said to be
only tested for impairment yearly, not
correct.
amortized.
So it is tested for impairment every year, and if there is an impairment loss, then it is booked in the statement of accounts, right? So all of these things are, very technical with respect to valuation. But then, if we don't have our basics correct, I don't know how are we going to proceed, because shortly I'm going to show you a real case study, that was asked by an investment bank, and some of the students reached out to me regarding that assignment, so I thought of sharing it with all of you. But that requires a good understanding of the valuation methods. But before that, I wanted to test how good or how we can remember our core concepts, because so many of you ask me that how do we get started. I'm an MBA. Some of you even are MBA in finance, right? So MBA hoke, if you do not have these concepts clear, then it's high time we must be having such sessions more often, or else you'll have to sit separately and focus more on these. So I have
Yes,
not been in touch with all of this since the last few years, but how do you know I know all this? I keep repeating things, right? It could be in sessions, it could be talking to my colleagues, etc. So you have to get into this habit of speaking to someone about it, but talk to someone who knows better than you, right? There is no harm in feeling dejected sometimes, or feeling that okay, I don't know something. Only when you feel uncomfortable, you want to come out of those situations. If you keep feeling this is my comfort zone, nothing changes, right? I have been there where I started feeling okay, this is enough, but no, you always have to keep growing, exploring, challenge yourself, feel that I'm not enough to be able to feel that yes, I'm enough now, right?
And
Anyway,
which is why,
yeah,
Kavya, it's first of all, it's great for you to be here, and we have people like Namrata Mankani and others who are bringing who are uh, attending these sessions to bring their experience to help us, help the groups we have. So it'll be great. I understand that some people can be shy initially, or they feel that I know only so much. We have so many experienced people. If I say something wrong, how will I be perceived? So nobody has to worry about this, because you know, I have asked Kavya, I've requested her to also come up with you may have heard it by now. I've asked her to come up with a finance for non finance people kind of a thing, where where she picks up like 3 or 4 modules and packages it as a workshop or an exercise. So she's working with the she's taking advice from many engineers, CAs, CFAs, MBA finance, people from all streams, computer guys, non-computer guys, because whatever she's talking about, like I said, it's very, very relevant in today's world. If you can't just say I'm into computers. You have to know the business domains and what they do. So Kavya is helping you understand all those in a very simple manner. And this is not her first rodeo, so to speak. She has delivered multiple sessions if you watch the YouTube channel, and she continues to do that. So maybe today's session requires a little bit more of understanding about finance valuations, but there are many other sessions. Once you slowly get used to the way of learning and teaching, she's teaching you the Socratic way, which means there's a question and answer format. That way you learn more. You get to connect with her. You get to. She's always also willing to help people, guide people in terms of interviews that you go to, or other things. So make sure you start attending these sessions so that you take advantage of these in the future when more easier topics come up as well. And please, guys, uh, I would like us to, when we call somebody, I would like us to make sure that we are supporting by a lot of interaction, because it is the interactions, the kind of questions that come up. I can ask 100 dumb questions because I am supposed to be the world's freshest fresher. So please go ahead and ask questions, regardless of no question is a dumb question. Anything you can ask.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. And, you can have my word on this. Nobody's here to judge you on what you speak. Sometimes, if you might feel that what I answered was not appropriate, it's fine. You at least reached us. You reached out to me directly. You spoke, and you at least, if you were not able to at least answer, but you were able to overcome that fear of being able to come and speak. So this matters more than you speaking the right answer. Remember that. So, hoping for more interactions, and again, continuing with the discussion we were having on income statement, etc. I think the next we have is the balance sheet, right? So, let me just quickly speak about it so that we don't waste time on arriving at the case study directly. Right. So, the balance sheet, as you know, is called the position statement. It is prepared at a point of time, and it documents the total assets and total liabilities. The equity side should be equal to the asset side. Anyone who can quickly tell me what the equity side comprises of? So it has the liabilities plus what? There's one more thing.
Assets. Assets.
So what is the accounting equation is what I'm asking.
Assets is equal to liability plus equity.
Correct. So assets is equal to capital plus liability. Correct. Okay. So we are aware of all these things. We know that cash flow statement is prepared. Probably all of these things are there. Right. Now, let me shift the gear a bit and ask you that, let's say that, there is a private entity that a public company wants to acquire. Let's make it simple. There is an acquisition happening. Merger, I'll come up with some time later. But let's say there is an acquisition happening in which a company B, which is a well established public company, wants to acquire a target company A, which happens to be a private entity. Right. Now, tell me, what all parameters would you look for if you are on the side of B, which is acquiring? So B is the acquirer and A is being acquired, right? So has to acquire A. Now tell me, if you are on the side of B, what all things would you look forward to before this acquisition happens? Think logically and tell me from your
Revenue.
experience.
Assets, equity, debt.
I don't want the I'm sorry, my bad. I don't want the financial factors first. I want the
Okay.
commercial and the operational factors. Tell me, what things would you search or research about that
Eh,
company?
coverage ratios, EV by EBITDA ratio. No,
No, no, no. Later.
Uh,
We'll come to
I
finance
would
later.
say
Yeah.
I would say management team. What is the market position of that company? How much growth it has done through the coming years, and all sorts
Right.
of these.
core business, core business.
Correct. What is their core business activity? Very important. So the most important thing is that what is the industry that that private entity operates in. So the moment I told you ki B is acquiring A, you should have asked me that is A in the same business as B? Is A in the same industry as B? Is A doing or selling the similar products and services as the entity B? Like you should have asked me what is the synergy gain for B, or what is the benefit that B is going to acquire, if it acquires A, that private entity. So for now, let's assume that A is into a similar business as B. So the first case is that A has similar business as B. Now tell me what all parameters. So you mentioned that we look at the organizational structure of A, right? Let me also reiterate. We'll also see what stage of the business cycle is A operating in, right? It might not be publicly listed, it might not be publishing its financials directly, but then it must also have a plan of action, right? It must be either in the growing stage or might have reached a maturity stage. It could be a startup that has just started in that area. So don't you think these things are very important for you to arrive at a valuation for that company? So I want such parameters that we talk about. So think of more operational factors about A that are important for B. Tell me. You talked about,
Operational
okay, how
factors or
much
financial factors.
financial will come in a minute. पहले मुझे बताओ ऑपरेशनल क्या
Okay.
देखोगे. I have given you some hints. आप इंडस्ट्री देखोगे उसकी,
Okay.
right?
ऑपरेशनल में मशीनरी प्लांट उसका
The share.
ठीक है, but no, no, no. I think, yeah. So I hope I'm able to
okay?
deliver what I'm asking. My concern is बी ने ए को अक्वायर करना है, आपने एक आईफोन खरीदना है, ठीक है, आप उसके लिए रिसर्च करोगे, इज इट वर्थ बाइंग एन आईफोन और शुड आई बाय सम अदर phone in the same space. So you have a budget in mind, right?
फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस,
Come again. क्या बोला आपने?
फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस,
Fundamental analysis, that's correct.
फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस में
करेक्ट. फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस में आप तीन चार फैक्टर्स देखते हो. यू डू अ ईआईसी एनालिसिस. व्हाट इज
यस
ईआईसी? ईआईसी का फुल फॉर्म पता है किसी को?
Economic, industrial, and company analysis.
ईआईसी
कंपनी स्पेसिफिक फैक्टर्स. करेक्ट. हाँ. सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट इकोनॉमी लेवल फैक्टर्स. सो अगर किसी भी कंपनी को अक्वायर करना है, सो डोंट यू थिंक दैट द ज्योग्राफी दे
योर
बोथ
वॉइस इज
ऑपरेट इन
ब्रेकिंग.
आल्सो प्लेज अ मेजर रोल?
हेलो,
Can you all feel it's breaking?
No, ma'am.
Hello? So I think there's some network issue
समटाइम
for you,
ब्रेकिंग.
Sahil. No, no, I think it's clear from my end if all of you agree. Okay, just check your connection. Maybe you can rejoin if you're facing an issue. So, yeah, right. So tell me more, some macroeconomic factors is what I'm asking. What kind of an analysis will you do on the company A? Yes, Megha.
Inflation, currency growth, money supply, interest rate, employment
Right. But
ratio.
that's correct, but try to put it in a single set of. So let's say you will study the fiscal and monetary policy of that economy in which it operates, right?
Yes, yes,
you will
yes,
see you will
yes.
see if
I'm
it's a
there
bank
monitor.
led. Yeah, right. So you will see if it's a bank led economy or not. You will see what kind of an industry it is that industry impacted by some globalization factors, if there are any other factors impacting that industry directly. So, for example, COVID happened,
Yes.
right? Which were the sectors most impacted? Tell me.
Healthcare sector.
Healthcare was impacted, but it also gained positively, right?
Yes, 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 sir.
Transportation industry, traveling
Highly impacted
industry,
healthcare sector.
hospitality.
Hospitality.
Hospitality was impacted. Positive, negative, we'll talk later. but the aviation sector, the tours and travel industry was impacted badly. The pharmaceutical industry was impacted, but
Yes.
it gained significantly. So plus and minus were there, but what all industries were impacted? Okay, was the FMCG impacted or not? What do you think? Yes.
Not
Not
much, ma'am.
much, because the households were still, hoarding those goods in their households, and the food supply couldn't stop, right? Anyway, so the objective is that we must be able to understand that before we look at the financials, there are so many other macro and microeconomic factors that impact any business. So forget about an acquisition happening or a merger happening. If I normally ask you कि किसी company का fundamental analysis करना है, so you will always start with understanding the economy in which the headquarters are, or in which the company has been incorporated. If it's an Indian setup, let's say we want to assume a company in India acquiring another private player, so आपको नहीं लगता you should know the licensing system in India, you should know what kind of a government setup it is, how that government setup can eventually pose a threat to your business in the future, what are the requirements to be able to acquire a business, etc. So try to think on those terms. Everything is not about the assets, liabilities, equity, etc. So why do you think there is a need of a DCF? DCF may we look at the financials. Now bringing
Yes.
your focus a bit to when the DCF cannot be used. Let's say the discounted cash flow cannot be used, and in this case. So when a private company is being acquired, tell me, सबसे पहली चीज आपको ये समझ आ गया that B is acquiring A. Now tell me, as a financial analyst or as a valuation consultant, your objective should be to value B or value A, and why?
Value B. Value B acquired by N.
B acquired A.
B acquired you.
So what will you value, A or B?
B.
Are you sure?
Acquirer A and acquired B. Or acquirer B or acquired by A.
What did I say? Can anyone repeat? What did I say? Who is the acquirer? Who is the acquiree?
B is the acquired, right? A is acquiring.
Okay, okay.
B acquired A. So A is the private player being acquired, and B is a public company that is acquiring A.
Then B. Then B.
So B is the company acquiring the company A. And you are saying that you will
So
value B.
no, A will be valued because we'll have to give purchase consideration to the equity holders of A.
Absolutely. So this has to be very clear for all of you, that why are we valuing A? Because A's value will determine the price that B will pay to acquire it. Is it making sense? Nahi aaya samajh? Stop me, tell me what is the concern. It was a very simple word to word case. A company is there,
Yes,
B,
yes.
which is a public company, it's acquiring a smaller company A. So who will pay whom to
Okay,
get acquired?
okay.
B has to pay A to acquire it. How much should it pay to A? For that, you need the valuation for A. You should know what is the equity value for A. You should know what the value of the firm is. A kitna worth hai, so that we know how much B should pay to A, right? So we should have a clarity that A is the one being acquired first. Now, किसको acquire करना है, किसको value करना है. A ही acquire हो रहा है तो A value होगा. Now the second concern is, what all valuation methods can we apply to value A? Anyone who's aware of these valuation methods या सुना है, any idea?
Yes, yes. P valuation, comparable methods, asset based valuation, DCF.
Just tell me the three approaches to valuation first. What are the three approaches? Major approaches. DCF is a
DCF.
DCF is a part of an approach. DCF is not directly an approach. What
Asset
kind of
based
an approach is DCF?
asset based valuation.
Think again, think again. I think we've Dev Rishi, we have Namrata. You guys can try. Anyone who's had an exposure about this. Okay, I'll give you a hint, all of you. Okay, before we arrive at the answer. You all said DCF. What is the full form of DCF?
Discounted cash flow.
Discounted
And
cash flow method.
right. So cash flow is related to your financial
Yeah,
activity, your
FCFF and FCFE में.
Are we
FCFF and S. No.
are
Yeah.
we
You.
talking about book value approach and market value approach?
Yes, we are talking about that. So I was eventually arriving at how would or under which category will you categorize DCF? Is
Book
it an
value.
income approach? Is it an income
Income approach,
approach?
ma'am.
Is it a market approach or is it a cost approach?
Income
Ma'am,
approach.
It's an
income
income
approach.
approach,
Income.
ma'am.
ठीक है इतना समझ आ गया इट्स एन इनकम अप्रोच व्हाई बिकॉज इट इज रिलेटेड टू द कैश फ्लोज मींस द फाइनेंशियल्स आर अवेलेबल तो डीसीएफ करने के लिए आपको क्या क्या चाहिए व्हाट ऑल इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर अ डीसीएफ टेल मी
DCF
इन
के
सिंपल
लिए
टर्म्स
growth rate, present value, future
नो नो
value.
नो वेट गुड गुड गोइंग सहदेव एवरीवन लिसन हम लोग एक व्हाट आई एम आस्किंग यू इज गिव मी द फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ अ डीसीएफ मॉडल व्हिच मींस नाउ आई एम टॉकिंग वेरी टेक्निकल ठीक है टेक अ मिनट रिलैक्स एंड थिंक हाउ अ डीसीएफ मॉडल इज बिल्ड सो आई एम इनडायरेक्टली आस्किंग यू द स्टेप्स ऑफ डीसीएफ व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप of building a DCF model?
Uh, Discount future cash flow in present.
First step that is there. You will discount them. But पहले क्या करोगे आप?
हम प्रोजेक्शन
Collecting
करेंगे रेवेन्यू
historical
एंड
Cash
data.
flow projection.
ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस का.
पहले ही प्रोजेक्शन कर लोगे आप.
Collecting historical data.
Correct. So the first should be that you understand the business model. You understand four factors. You understand the revenue drivers. You understand the cost drivers. You understand the capex and the opex of the business. एक बार आपको समझ आ गया कि कंपनी का रेवेन्यू कहाँ से आ रहा है उनका कॉस्ट कहाँ से जनरेट हो रहा है एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ अ बिजनेस आर दे इन व्हाट इज अ बिजनेस मॉडल आर दे जस्ट सेलिंग प्रोडक्ट्स और आर दे आल्सो प्रोवाइडिंग सर्विसेज it should make sense to you, right? So the first step should not be projecting. Project तो आप करोगे ही, but किसको project करोगे? So the first step is to understand the business model. The second is to gather the historical financials. Now tell me what do I mean by historical financials? If the current financial year is FY 20 to 23, तो आपको historical आपके according कितना चाहिए? If you are building a model, how back will you go? How many years पहले का data would you want to analyze?
Ma'am, minimum 3 years and maximum is up to 5 or 10.
Yeah, so 2 to 3 years, 3, 4 years. If you're getting the data for as long as last 5 years, good enough. If not, last 3 years is enough, right? So you take the last 3 years historicals, project in the sense you put it in the Excel format. अब एक्सेल में अगर मैं कह रही हूँ कि आप हिस्टोरिकल्स डालो हाउ वुड यू formulate an Excel model on this. So आपकी sheets क्या होंगी? What would be the first sheet named? How would you name the model? Like Excel होता है, Excel has a lot of worksheets. Those worksheets comprise to become a workbook, right? And that workbook is your model. Now tell me what will be those worksheets in a financial model? First worksheet क्या होगी आपकी? सबसे पहले आप कौन किस चीज पे वर्क करोगे आपने हिस्टोरिकल फाइनेंशियल्स को तो डाल दिया एक्सेल पे ठीक है अब हिस्टोरिकल फाइनेंशियल्स को कैसे डालोगे यू विल हैव वन टैब ऑन द इनकम स्टेटमेंट व्हिच विल टॉक अबाउट द रेवेन्यू इट विल टॉक अबाउट द कॉस्ट फैक्टर्स इट विल टॉक अबाउट द पीएटी द एबिटा एबिट मतलब पुराना प्रीवियस रिकॉर्ड क्या है ऑफ द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस राइट वन worksheet will talk about the balance sheet figures it will talk about the historical balance sheet of the business right then you'll also have the cash flow historicals so these three statements are mandatory and should be there so that you can project other things in the future अब आप पे historicals available हैं yes
Ma'am, can I add something?
please sure
Assumptions, I can also add my assumptions and inputs like revenue growth rate, discount rate, terminal value assumptions, things like that.
yes
And of course, like you said, income statement, cash flow statement, balance sheets. So those will be my ingredients when I start building the model.
Absolutely. So, when you build a model completely, the first sheet in your model, as you mentioned, should be a summary which would talk about the assumptions you've taken. You should mention or give the color coding that, okay, the assumptions are marked in blue, the numbers that are hard coded are, are black, probably the other things are red, etc. So we have a color coding for a lot of things in the model that I can share with you, and the books that have been shared in the group already incorporate such things. So I have this particular document that I'll share with you on this, right? But then the objective is to understand that what all are we projecting to eventually arrive at the valuation multiple. So let's say you've mentioned the historicals for these three, then you project them obviously using some assumptions. You assume a revenue growth rate, you assume a terminal value growth rate. But then I doubt, are we confident and are we aware of these concepts, guys? Because the objective was to discuss a case study on relative valuation. So the reason I'm clearing on what DCF is so that you don't get confused on what we are doing in the case study. So I hope you have a clarity on what DCF means. What do we eventually arrive at in a DCF? So I think one of you mentioned about FCFF, FCFE. So that comes into the picture when you are projecting the cash flows, right? So are we on the same page? Are we aware? Are we able to understand that, okay, first the historicals would be there, we'll calculate the ratios from those historicals, those ratios will be extrapolated, and then we'll arrive at the projections. Once we have the projected figures, those projections will be discounted back. Now, how will we discount those financials? Anyone who knows? What is the discount rate used to discount back the future cash flows?
Usually it's cost of equity, cost of capital.
So it's the WACC rate. So I think most of us are new to this concept, and maybe it's a bouncer for some of you. And I was assuming that we are well equipped with the basics of valuation, but no worries. I think I'll take a separate session on the very scratch of DCF, etc. For now, let me just show you the case study because I have already prepared the same, and I want to be able to discuss that with you all.
Ma'am,
Right.
can I
So
ask a
let me know
question?
whenever you can see. Sure, sure. Please go ahead. Yeah.
I have read somewhere that you can also include sensitivity analysis and some charts and graphs. Is that true?
Correct. Yes, that's very true, and that comes into the picture when you've already built the entire model, and then you want to see how one parameter can impact the other. So let's say you've used a particular growth rate and a WACC that has been determined. So WACC is your discounting factor. So let's say you want to see that if I change my WACC a bit or my growth rate a bit, how would it impact my value? Sensitivity analysis is nothing but playing around the final figure you've arrived at to look at a lot of scenarios or possibilities that can eventually be. So let's say you assumed a growth rate of 5%, but you think it could be 5.56. So you take every case scenario. So when you want to take every case scenario, instead of building every model separately, we do a sensitivity analysis. But to arrive at the sensitivity analysis or to build a data table, we should be very good with dealing with the data first. So you should know what linking goes where. So I hope, like, for example, if I ask you what is the what is the correlation or what is the connection between WACC and the growth rate, so are we aware of that? If not, then we'll not be able to understand the sensitivity analysis and why we are doing it. So the first step is always to understand what links to what. So like I asked you that what is the discount rate, Devrishi mentioned that it could be the cost of equity, it could also be the cost of debt, or it could be both, right? So if it is both, then how would the growth rate impact it, or how would the tax rate impact your WACC? So this impact that these components have on each other is very important and should be the first step that you all should know before you look at the sensitivities or the data table, or you look at the equity value that is derived. Now at this stage, if I tell you that you arrive at the enterprise value, then you might subtract the number of shares, etc., आपको नहीं समझ आएगा, right? So it's better that we incorporate it in the form of an Excel first, and then we do the analysis. If you all agree, we'll do that.
So, Kavya ma'am, before you proceed to the case study, let me quickly summarize my dumb understanding of what I have understood.
Sure.
So, to build a DCF model, basically, number one, I require some data. So I'll gather historical financial statement, maybe some industry research or some information about the company. The second step then is to forecast future cash flows. We can estimate it over a 5-year period, 10-year period, whatever we decide, and consider the factors for revenue growth, such as expenses, capital expenditure, all that capex you talked about. Then the third step would be to determine what discount rate we are using.
Yes.
So we can. It's about often using the company's cost of capital, or WACC, which is the weighted average cost of capital. Then the fourth step is we actually discount the cash flows. Like you said, we have to ultimately discount it. So we'll apply the discount rate to each projected cash flow to determine the present value.
Yes.
Then we calculate the terminal value, and then we sum up the values, we deduct the net debt, we divide by shares outstanding, and so on and so forth. So these are the like a very basic step by step things that I would do if I was preparing a model. But what happens to me, ma'am, is that when I'm doing this, I get often confused. What step should be first? What comes next? So I'm hoping that the case study will kind of give me an overview of how to do it from scratch, like at a high level.
Correct, correct. So I think that's the most important thing, that, we are aware of what the steps are to be followed, and that only comes when we practice a lot, right? A single case study might not help all of you arrive at that picture. I always say that, the first step towards starting in finance, or rather even data analytics, is, excelling Excel. So it's very important that you have your hands-on experience on Excel enough that if I ask you to quickly calculate the future value and I give you the formula, using the syntax, you are able to identify which cells to use in that reference. So
And
that
then
should be very quick. Hmm.
Yeah. And then what I'm noticing is that, when we talk about data analysts or data engineers or data scientists or all these finance people, when they go for interviews, they are just out of the college, or they are just out of, they have done some internships here or there, virtual or private, and the companies are expecting them to perform at a different level.
Yeah.
And those can come out of different kind of interactions with people like you, people like Namrata, people like and with the help of our great volunteers like Devarishi and other
Yes.
people who spoke today. So I guess, so together we are starting this great venture where we can continue to have these discussions from time to time, and everybody will get helped, whether they are finance people, hardcore finance people, or people that are trying to transition. Because on we have realized in 2022 the market was doing much better. Everybody was resigning, and today the market is the other way around, where the demand is less, the supply is more. So to be competitive, it is very important to understand the different domains, and finance is just one of them.
Correct.
uh,
I
we
agree.
we are
Yeah.
we are grateful that we've helped from you in the finance area, at least where we can be. I know, Kavya, that I can go home and still make a lot of mistakes while calculating numbers, while running sheets, or while just understanding the how it is done practically in organizations. But we are glad that we have you to help us uh, through. And please don't be angry with us, Kavya.
No,
Please,
no.
the although maybe some of us do not understand as well as you do, but we promise you that with growing time, we will do much better. This is just, consider this as just our first session where we are just learning. And I know that you had a predecessor session before where you had taught some of these concepts. So while it would have been helpful for us to revise those concepts before we came in, but please be patient with us, and we'll make sure that we do good.
I'm sure all of us will together do it. And all I expect is that, some of you might just randomly ping me and keep pinging me, keep disturbing me that, okay, let's have a session on this. Let's have a session on Excel. So, when we, or as mentors, or probably as someone who might be having a little more experience, are always told that, this is what I feel is lacking. And if you bring this thing on the table, we all can benefit. So more than you, it encourages us to be able to prepare for it and go ahead with it. And trust me, there are so many things that do not even require a preparation, right? You just hop onto the screen, you come here together, we just speak about any random thing. Right. So I didn't plan to discuss on the accounting part of it today. But then as I realized that, we need a lot of revision at our end. So I'm sure all of you have gathered at least some sort of a knowledge, or at least have realized where what is lacking or where I need to start. That's the most important thing. Trust me, all of you would be in a position one day, especially in finance, you will be building your own models and asking people not even to review it. You'll be so confident that, okay, this is the value I've arrived at, and it correlates with all the other analysts who've published the same. And trust me, it happens with time. For me, it was never a overnight job, right? It took a lot of time. So we're all here for that, and I am expecting good quality questions. Do your research, come back, tell me that whatever you said, I didn't understand anything, just repeat it all, and I will. But I want to
Ma'am,
see that
ma'am,
curiosity.
we sorry to say that, ma'am, we were a little afraid because we know that we saw your profile and you had like 96% and 97%. Your percentage was in the 90s, so we are a little hesitant to work with someone who knows so much, and we are just beginners.
I don't know anything at all. I consider myself as someone, who might have just worked hard. But again, grades don't speak who you are, right? I think it's how well you position yourself to gather the amount of learning that you can get. You really think I've read a lot of books, etc. I mean, books have certainly helped, but what have really helped me is people like Arun, who are like 24/7 available for you to not just be there, but connect you to that concerned person who can be the change maker in your life. So I might have probably met someone, or an opportunity, or these sessions might have enabled me to get out of my comfort zone, be out of my shell, and do something just because somebody out there has trusted me that I can do it. And trust me, I was there. I share my story with you all sometime. There was this one turning point in my life, and after that I never turned back. So there was this mentor of mine, back then. I didn't know Arun at that point of time, and he just told me that, Kavya, I don't know for what reason I feel that you'll be able to teach a particular topic. And trust me, it came as a result of me posting about it on LinkedIn. That's it. So it's like you get a certificate and you post about it on your LinkedIn because you want other people to know. And it was all about that, right? I posted a certificate that's mentioned that, okay, I've completed a course on financial modeling, and the very next day he just tells me that this is the meet link, you are the one who will be teaching financial modeling. And I was like, what? I can't do it. I can't even face the camera. And look at me now. So how has this happened? I was forced to do it. So I'll force some of you to do it, and trust me, you'll thank me later, right? Anyway, nevertheless, it should come from within, and I'm sure you all are already there. That's the reason you're sitting here at 9 p.m. at night and ready to learn, right? No worries, but don't hesitate. I mean, agar hamare saath bhi hesitate karoge, then trust me, the world is very cruel, right? They won't give you the chance to express yourself twice. So if you have a chance now, express yourself 100 times and nobody's going to question you. And me and Arun, we both promise you that. किसी ने आप पे फिंगर भी पॉइंट किया ना कि ये कैसे बोल रहा है, ये इसको सही नहीं बोल रहा है ये, then you tell us and in a minute he's out of the group. Right? So don't worry. Anyway, so let me know if you all can see my screen. Is it visible? Any one of you can confirm if it's visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, again, as I said, this was your session led by you. I'm here to guide you all. Basis whatever discussion we've had today. Anyone, maybe Devrishi, Namrata, all of you take the lead, read the case study, and tell me at this point. I'm sure, as and when we'll proceed with more sessions, we'll be in a better place to formulate this in the form of an Excel and a PPT and a PDF, whatever is required. But at this point, हमें कितना समझ आया this case study is everything about the session, right? So let's proceed. Over to you guys. Read about the case study. Tell me whatever you understand, and then we'll discuss on what I feel we can do. Right? So let's take it like that. So any one of you can just start reading it, and then we'll proceed. So just start. Yeah. Devrishi, would you like to just speak it out?
Oh my, Rishi is in a train journey. Rishi has been taking a lot of interviews, so he decided to have a small vacation.
Anyone, any basic understanding of what is required in this case study? This is a real case study, let me tell you. This was asked by one of the investment banks for a valuation profile. Trust me, this is entry level, right? This is for a fresher who has no experience in valuation, but probably is an MBA in finance. So anything on your part that you would have done to solve this case, let it all out, and then we'll help you shape up, if it's in the right direction. So yeah, let's start with the first point first. It says, one page overview of the UK banking sector, which answers these questions. So can you read out the A point? What all does it mean, and how will you go ahead and research on this? Had it been a case study you had to submit, tell me. What is it asking for, basically?
It's like asking for an industry approach, what we do in the EIC. So 1A says like it's a competitive landscape. So we have to speak about what is happening in the UK banking sector, what are their repo rates, and what is happening there, how is the economy going on, again what are the banks doing to develop the credit, and what is the situation of the credit. So it's a competitive landscape, how other banks are performing, how Stand Chart Bank is doing, at the same time who is the leader, where what is the position of Stand Chart Bank, like that. Then recent developments, what are the key developments? Like we have again UPI. UPI was in like 2017. Now we have a lot of NBFCs and a lot more
Yeah.
movements. So there's UK economy. They're also doing a lot to change their banking sector. So what's there happening in the banking sector, and what are the drivers that is driving the growth for the banking sector in the UK? I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are, and very well said, Devrishi. Please continue, and probably also talk about, how would you find these factors? Would you do a Google search, or anything that you feel we can do to complete the first 2 points?
Second, I didn't read. Just give me a moment.
So it also says that how does the movement in interest rates impact the PNL of a bank? So anyone who has any idea about the relationship between interest rates and the banking sector, or
So I would
interest
like to
rate,
speak.
inflation? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
So what happens if the interest rates are rising, or what we call the repo rates, the basic rates, the MCLR, what is rising? I'll try to talk in Indian context so people here can understand it better. You can translate it into any
Yeah.
economy because every economy functions like that.
Correct.
It's the same.
Yeah.
So in India, when RBI hikes the rate, basically the cost at which the banks borrow money is increased. So it some way impacts the bank's profit and loss statements, because if the cost of you requiring the money or you requiring the product is increased, you have to sell it either at a higher price or else you will suffer losses and your losses will increase. If you sell at the same price you were selling it before, you're going to suffer losses and you will going to book loss in your P&L. And if you're going to get your increase your margin, you're going to get your profit.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, so just
Hello, am I
yeah,
audible?
yeah, Devshi, you were audible and you spoke well again. I mean, very apt. But as I said, I won't interfere. It's for you people. So I want to hear other voices. You are the one who'll have to encourage others to speak now, right? So I think very well said, as you talked about, how the monetary policy can impact, or the changes in interest rate can increase the money supply or decrease it, eventually leading to an increase or decrease in inflation. So in the Indian context, there was a change in the CRR and the SLR rates. So can any one of you?
Ma'am, can I
Yeah.
and Vikas has raised a hand, ma'am, and I also want to speak, maybe.
Yes, please do. It's yours to discuss. I mean, I want to know from you all. So Vikas,
Uh,
go ahead and share whatever you want.
yeah, hi Kavya ma'am. As you said, I have prepared on some of the points you have mentioned in the group.
Right. Okay. Whatever you've prepared, we'll be
Yeah,
happy to hear.
I
Yeah.
you have
Data
mentioned
valuation.
valuation. I think
Mm-hmm.
I have come across the comparative
Comparable.
company analysis is CCA,
Yes. Yes.
and the key metrics included for price to earnings and
Mm-hmm.
EBITDA. And
Good.
even I gone through that market multiples
Mm-hmm.
like price to earning ratio and enterprise valuation to EBITDA.
Yes. Can you see them somewhere on the screen? ऐसा कुछ दिख रहा है आपको?
See on the third point.
Correct, correct. So we will come to the third point, but very good mention, very well mentioned, because that if I asked you to do it, that means it's important. But kyunki understand that if the recruiter is asking you to solve a case study, and it is not the first point they are asking, they are not asking for the multiples in the first point. So why do you think they are doing it?
Yes.
Tell me that. आपको क्या लगता है? Why is the first point about industry? Why is the second point about company? And then they are talking about the ratios. Now you understand why I gave you that example of A and B. Why I said that I don't want the financials. First, tell me about the economy, then tell me about the company. So, first, you'll always understand what the economy is doing, what all factors are impacting. As you all have already discussed, that as far as the banking sector is concerned, the money supply will impact it. What is the inflation rate, what is the CRR rate, what is the SLR rate, what are these rates, and how are they? So what is the buying and selling activity of the RBI, right? If the RBI buys more money, more from the commercial banks, how will it impact their PNL? So this understanding is very important as far as the banking sector. So why is it important? Because that will help you determine which multiple to use in that particular sector. So yeah.
So, ma'am, ma'am, you asked about the relationship between the interest rates and the banking sector. So, when the interest rates are low, the banks may experience reduced profitability because of the spread between borrowing and the lending rates, it narrows. But if
Yes.
if the interest rates are high, it can lead to higher profitability or increased profitability because the spread widens. That's the most basic thing that I understand. And of course, interest rates can also influence consumer behavior, affecting the demand for loans and deposits. So that will also affect the banking sector. So, for example, if the interest rates are low, the consumer may be more inclined to borrow, and that will stimulate the lending activity.
Correct. And that'll decrease the amount of savings they have with the bank, hence impacting their PNL. Right?
Right.
I think that is what it means. So, correct, very nice. And I think all of it out is there on Google also, right? How do I, or how do we all are arrive? How are we all arriving at all of these conclusions? You simply write. By the time, all of you should have written on your systems, what is the relationship between, so interest rate versus inflation, interest rate versus money supply. These are the keywords that you should randomly be looking for, whenever you come across anything like this. So my objective is not to excel you in the UK banking sector, or there's no purpose of telling you ki UK economy samajh lo and you're good to go. No, the objective is to understand that if it's about the banking sector in UK, so I should primarily know about the monetary policy also. So if I'm considering other macroeconomic factors which we talked about in general, like, what is the GDP rate, what is the growth rate, what is the rate at which the economy is growing, so many other factors that you consider at a industry level or an or a economy level. But for a bank, what is more important is the interest rate change, the changes in the money supply, the taxation, the taxes that the government is charging from the individuals or the corporates, that will also impact the economy or the banking sector in general. For example, the if I increase the CRR by, let's say, 50 basis points, so then I'll ask you, or let's say I'm an interviewer and I say that आप इंडिया में रहते हो, इंडिया में देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सीआरआर, ओके, यू नो इट्स अ कैश रिजर्व रेशियो, आप उसके बारे में पढ़ लोगे ऑनलाइन. नाउ टेल मी व्हाट इज सीआरआर. चलो लेट्स हैव अ शॉर्ट डिस्कशन अराउंड दिस एंड ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड इट लॉजिकली. हाउ वुड इट इम्पैक्ट व्हाट, राइट? सीआरआर होता है, व्हाट इज सीआरआर, पहले ये बताओ. ट्राई एंड फाइंड इट आउट फॉर मी.
Cash reserve ratio, ma'am.
दैट्स करेक्ट. हाँ, तो क्या होता है, व्हाट इज सीआरआर? लाइक कुछ तो होता होगा ना, रेट है, इट्स अ कैश रिजर्व रेशियो, बट हु इज सपोज टू मेंटेन द सीआरआर? क्या is it the rate at which? हाँ, all of that, tell me.
As per the RBI directions, the bank has to maintain, or whichever the apex bank of the country when it says.
So the reserve, you are trying to say the reserve bank has to maintain the CRR in their books, or is it the commercial banks that have to maintain the CRR?
Commercial banks,
Ma'am,
commercial
commercial
bank, as
bank.
per the instruction of Axis Bank.
Make this clear first. Acha, CRR छोड़ दो, it involves cash reserve. Let's talk about the repo rate. It's more easy to understand, ठीक है? Because it talks about the borrowing percentage. So repo rate क्या होता है?
Repo rate is the repo rate and the reverse repo rate are rates at which the Reserve Bank either borrows or lends money with the commercial banks.
Let's stop there. Very well said. So I am saying repo rate. So I'm sorry, I am not saying, you guys are saying repo rate is the rate at which the Reserve Bank or the central bank borrows money from the commercial banks. Is it correct? Is this what you all mean? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes.
ठीक है?
Yeah,
So the
if we increase the if typically the central bank maintains it. So in US the Federal Reserve does it. In India, RBI does it. So if you increase the repo rate, the central bank can reduce liquidity in the banking system, and the borrowing becomes more expensive in that case. But if the
correct,
repo rate in any country is lowered, that makes the borrowing cheaper, and
cheaper.
therefore
Yeah.
banks are encouraged to lend more and more to stimulate the economic activity, as we have recently seen in India as well, or US particularly.
Absolutely. So, see, very well, very good discussion we are having, and I'm happy that we are able to relate what will happen. So we generally say, or आपने आप कभी भी ना go back and type on Google the CRR increase. You will find article which says CRR increased, EMIs become expensive, lending becomes expensive. But are we able to understand the logic behind it? If we are, then we'll be able to understand the banking sector and the factors impacting it. So understand that जब भी कोई ऐसा case study आ रहा है as a result of you getting onboarded in a firm or in a company, they are not just testing your research skills, they're also questioning whether you've ever read the news or not. So are you getting me? If you are someone who lives in India, is aware that India is a bank-led economy. In India, we have all these changes, or the monetary policy was recently in the picture. RBI either kept it the same or have increased it by 25 or 50 basis points. You know that as a result of an increase in the CRR, what is the impact? Will the money supply increase or decrease? If the money supply in the economy increases, does it impact the inflation positively or negatively? If these things are clear, how will it help? It'll help in a way that जब ऐसा कोई case study आप पे आएगा, or if you're in a corporate and you're all by yourself, you don't have anyone to help you, and you have a platform like Google, which allows you to search for anything, you will have a clarity on मुझे search क्या करना है. Sometimes the biggest question is, how do I begin my research? Where do I start with? If I ask you, talk about the UK banking sector, what will you type on Google to give me this answer? That is the concern. So, am I making sense? Yeah.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Can I say something about
Please,
CRR?
please. Yeah.
So CRR basically affects the bank by requiring them to keep a portion of their deposits with the central bank. So that reduces the money available for lending and can impact their profitability. That's one thing. CRR also will impact the influence the interest rate, because you talked about higher CRR, that will lead to higher borrowing costs. And it helps the central bank control the amount of money in the economy, which can obviously impact inflation. So the bank's ability to lend, or interest rates, or inflation in the economy, all can be predicted by, if we are watching any news item, whether on the TV or the or a news channel, we have to understand what is it that they're talking about, and how is it impacting us, because obviously when we go for interviews, we'll be asked some questions, or they might give us a case study, just like you have given us. And this is very basic. You've given us to help us understand how what we are studying today relates back to what we are seeing around us on the television. Thank you, ma'am. Was I okay?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, very well said. And I think all of you might have realized at this point that, the logic behind things. So, finance is all about understanding why something is happening. So many of, I used to always have a question that why do we take the average of a few components in the denominator while calculating the ratio? So, that becomes a question for the recruiter, but that becomes a point of study for you. So, for example, while calculating EPS, right? How is EPS calculated? It's the earnings per share, right? So you take the PAT and you take the weighted average number of outstanding shares. So the question that I was also asked in my first job was why weighted average and why not just the outstanding shares? But and trust me, just as commerce graduates, you should know the logic. And mind me, I've already told you about it during this session, but maybe none of you caught hold of what I said. So when I mentioned that income statement is prepared over a period of time, and I mentioned that balance sheet is prepared at a point of time, that is the answer to this question. You cannot compare an apple to an orange. You cannot compare something that is prepared over a period to something that is at a point of time, and hence taking an average helps normalize that over the period effect, right? So many things like that. So think about it. And people, especially Namrata, I would request her, because she is a CA and would be guiding you more into the accounting part and the reasoning behind it. I have always been very curious to know why something is happening. I saw the first message a few years back that some amount was credited in my bank account, and what intrigued me was not how much amount I was credited with, but why is it a credit and not a debit? And I frequently speak about it. Some of you might feel that she's always talking about the same topics. But then, if I am talking about the same topics and most of you have attended my sessions, you've seen my content, then why are you not well equipped with it? That is my concern. And I don't mind repeating it again and again, but I'll make sure that each one of you would start questioning the logic behind it, even if it makes my job or anyone's life difficult. That, okay, he's going to ask me the reason, I'll have to find out. It's fine. For example, another example and another point of question in interviews, take it as a golden rule for take it as a golden tip that you all entered this session and are here till the end. So many recruiters ask you that why is depreciation added back in the cash flow statement, and I have personally asked this question from so many of people, but I don't get a perfect answer, I don't get a good answer. But have we tried practicing it, or have we tried speaking what we feel is right, and then are we open to feedback? Are we open to hearing that, okay, I can mold it like that, and then maybe let me try the improved version? So if you ask me why is depreciation added back, or if you're thinking about the answer, probably what's there in your mind is it's added back because it's a non-cash expense. Anyone who thinks like that? But do you think this answer is complete? No. So what is the correct answer? Interact for that. You'll have to speak for that. You'll have to practice for that. Okay, I'm here, Arun is here, all of us are here to just get that answer for you. चाहे हमें खुद गूगल करना पड़ता है कभी कभी, it's fine. It's okay to accept that we don't know everything. I know nothing. I am still a learner who is learning something every day, not from the books or things around, from you guys. I learn so much from you, right? Anyway, so I think a very good discussion we had on the banking sector, and that should also become a homework for you, or a takeaway, that you should be well aware of how these factors are, these qualitative and quantitative factors are impacting the banks in general. This is something that goes without saying कि आपको पता ही होना चाहिए कि what can possibly impact our Indian economy. And hence, every time you have a valuation case study, you solve anything on financial modeling, finance, valuation, it always starts with your understanding of the industry. And hence, I always say that when you prepare an equity research report, you what it's about, if I receive an equity research report that is prepared by someone, the first thing I look forward to is what is the geography, right? What are the policies that govern this country? Even if I am from India and I know what Indian economy is all about, and I am reading a report on a company in India, let's say Tata Motors, I want to know what Tata Motors is all about. But before that, I want to know what the automobile sector is all about. Even before that, I want to know if there is any change that can possibly impact the automobile or not, right? Can the petrol prices impact the automobile sector? If yes, by how much percentage? Will it be a significant impact on the automobile sector or not? Can a situation like COVID impact an automobile sector more or a banking sector more? And will the impact in banking sector impact the finances on my automobiles, right? So you should know that when I talk of the automobile sector, so it's not just about the vehicles that they sell, it's also about, so if you go and read about the revenue models for these companies, you will realize that 100% of the revenue is not coming from selling cars. Some part of the revenue also comes out of the interest that you pay on financing the cars with them, right? So many things are there out for you to read about, which I think is the task you guys can only do, and none of us can just imbibe them in you. Well, I won't take much time. I'll leave the case
Kavya, I
study.
have
I'll
a
send. Yeah,
small question. The EIC analysis that one does. So
yeah, yeah.
in that, we initially spoke about M&A. So let's say there are two companies and they are from the same economy. Even in that case, do we need to do EIC?
Absolutely. See, yeah, I mean, you might not do a lot of research on the industry economy part of it, but then understand that if you are a valuation consultant and you'll have to prepare a report or prepare a valuation report for that business, anyone who's looking at the target would want you to talk about what they would never talk about what the acquirer is doing. They would want to know in and out of the acquiree's business, and the queries business would definitely get impacted by the industry and the economy factors as well, right? So irrespective of whatever kind of evaluation you're doing, even if it's not for a M&A activity or a private placement, or let's say a company wants to start with an IPO, it's for any reason, take it as a saying from my end that EIC has to be done, even if only the financial analysis is required. So yes, we'll go ahead and do it because it doesn't take much. All it requires is requires from you is to do a short pestle analysis and a SWOT analysis, which you generally ideally get for the comparable public companies. So the first step is, if you know that it's of a similar business as of the public company, then you have the data available for that public company. You go to the annual report of that public company that is acquiring the target, and you'll find it in their annual report only. So every annual report will also have a lot of information on the economy factors and the industry factors. Why do you think it's needed? मतलब आप कहोगे ना कि एनुअल रिपोर्ट है कंपनी की, तो कंपनी अपने बारे में बात करे, why is it talking about the economy? But you will still find it. So be smart. It's all about being smart. आपको करना कुछ नहीं है. All you have to do is, if you know it's a private company, उसका data available नहीं है, identify the business description. Business description समझ आ गया. Now you identify a very strong comparable public company and look at the annual reports to arrive at the EIC analysis. I hope थोड़ा सा it makes sense. Yes, yes, Arun, please. You have
Uh,
something to say.
yeah, ma'am, London is my favorite city. Every time I travel to India via Heathrow Airport, I always think about London. So I was asking somebody at the airport, how does I was also trying to understand how does the US economy impact Indian economy, or the UK economy impact Indian economy. I learned six things which I'm speaking in front of you, and I even if I'm wrong, I speak boldly in front of you so that people like Kavya, people like Namrata can correct me. Okay, because it's my job. If I don't speak freely in front of my gurus, then I will not learn anything. So howsoever dumb I am, I'll speak. So the first thing I learned was, if the from a trading perspective, if the if the UK economy experiences a slowdown, it will reduce consumer spending. Simple hai to. And it will lead to lower demand for Indian exports like textiles, because that's what we export to them. Um, so we'll have a decline in export orders and revenue for the Indian textile manufacturers. That's one thing. That's what I learned from an airport conversation. The second thing was investments. So if the UK economy, let's say, has a recession, that will have reduced investments from UK company in Indian infrastructure projects. So let's say there's a construction-based company in UK, they may delay the plans or cancel the plans to invest in a building or a new highway in India. So we'll have less for foreign capital. Uh, from the financial markets perspective, if there is any stability, we have recently seen that there was a prime minister which who was voted, and she stayed only for a few month or so, and then we had Rishi come in and replace her. So if there is an instability in financial markets, that can impact the investor sentiment globally. For example, if there's a stock market crash. London market has had crash a few times. If there is a crash, it will cause a decline in the stock market price in India as well, because the investor confidence will be affected. Another simple thing is, the fourth one is, um, if there are Indian workers in US, some of us work in. I have a lot of friends who work in London, and they send money to India. So they may not be able to send, uh, or they may be able to send lower amounts of remittances back to their families in India if something happens to the job market, right? If there is reduced employment in London, the tax rates are very very high. So people are sending lesser money to India, back to their families. So in general, you know, if the UK establishes new trade agreements that is imposing higher tariffs on Indian goods, it can make Indian exports to the UK more expensive. So there are, I mean, I think if the UK economy faces any major economic challenges, it will create a sense of uncertainty and caution among the global investors. So because of this, uh, we want to get foreign direct investments in India, and it will affect India because investors may become more risk averse. So these are the broad items that I learned, and of course we can go deep into these kind of things. And I was going to ask you, Kavya and Namrata and other intelligent people out here. Um, so you got people who are in finance, they read different kind of articles or reports. So can you suggest us some source? For example, if a common man, let's say I'm a data analyst, or I'm a financial analyst, I'm fresh out of college, I'm fresh MBA finance, and I want to study more about the banking sector. I've chosen that and I've chosen to build projects in that. So I have basic domain knowledge and I have basic IT knowledge. Where do I go to find more information about the banking sector, ma'am?
I think depends on the geography. So if you want, so the best source I would like without thinking would say is the central bank's website. So as far as India, you go to the CCI's website, that is the clearing corporation, or you go to the RBI's website. Then you can also refer to the website, the World Bank's website, where you can find a lot of articles on how the global. So more or less, I would suggest that it's not important that you deep dive into a particular company's central bank. Rather, find articles that are published by World Bank, Credit Suisse, or such global research organizations. So I might be sharing a few with you which have helped me prepare the reports on the banking sector. But then again, it depends. Let's say, you're trying to study about the US economy. So try and understand what leads the US banking sector. Like in India, we have RBI. So what is it there? So probably they might be having an official email, a website for that. So I think that could be a good starting point. Just as I say that if you want to analyze a company, before you rely on money control, before you rely on trend line, go and read the website first. I think this is what is the biggest mistake we do. We don't go through the website in detail. We just hop onto these third party sources to read more information. So I have always relied on the central bank's website of that particular geography to get some basic details.
Also, ma'am, are there any books or material available where I can find these sort of case studies to practice? I mean, I'm thankful to you that you're bringing these examples and case studies which mimic the real world. But is there anything that I can purchase from the market, or or get it somewhere where I can practice these kind of questions, and then if I'm stuck, I can ask the mentors like you.
So MBB has a lot of postings on this. When I say MBB, I mean, McKinsey, BCG, Bain. They are very active in publishing the case studies that are taught in different institutions, including IIMs, and also what they ask their candidates while they're applying. And fortunately, to my knowledge, we've already shared that in some of the groups. I have star marked a few of them with me, and I'll see if I'll be able to find more of those books, because I remember I have a few with me. Just give me some time, I'll be floating them again in the group. And these have come out as a result of, somebody else floating, or maybe around you floated in the group, but there was a lot of material, so maybe we might have missed it. But everything is out there, right? So at this moment, do not pay for anything, rather use the material that is already there in the group. So I will also give it out there. But honestly, case studies help a lot, conceptualize everything in a systematic manner, but everything else boils down to your reading habits. It comes down to how well you are with the reasoning part of it. So one of the reasons, why I say that the case studies might not be a very technical one to begin with, but they could be as simple as blood relations. They could be basic reasoning case studies which develop your mind first. Because when I showed this case study, some of you might have felt this is too much to handle. But if I ask each and every item mentioned here as a standalone question, you all will have an answer to it, right? So case study is practiced when you are confident enough that I have gathered bits and pieces of information, and now I'm ready to put it all there and see if this is what is required there. So what I would say is that you would need a book, or you should look for a resource that also provides the solutions with it. So I remember I got a few books in hard copy with me when I was doing my MBA. If time permits, if I get the time, I will send a lot of pictures and photos and screenshots of them in the group. And that is actually the plan of action for the future. But then there are prerequisites. Again, the prerequisites are curiosity. You should not just rely on them, rather start reading from the materials which are already available. And if we can't do it, I'm sorry to say, but the case studies are only going to look like a horrified horror movie, which you just look at and say, oh my God, just take it away. I don't understand anything.
Is curiosity something we can purchase, ma'am, from the market?
Not at all. See, that's the only thing, right? I mean, everything else can be bought, but your learning, your ability, your motivation comes from within. The day you feel that I'm ready to, put in a lot of hard work without thinking that I've done enough for the day, that's when you know that your official journey has begun. So just learn, gather as much information from wherever. And I think the technologies played such a good part in all of our lives that I'm sure all of you are at least a part of 10 plus groups on WhatsApp. So how many of you are just mute, you've just muted the group and are just silent spectators out there? Don't be silent spectators. Be silent spectators, 3 4 years down the line, when you're like, okay, my life is sorted. But this is actually the time to look at each and every message that is sent. It is to open every resource, every book that is being shared. And with that, I also want to talk about the workshop, that Arun is mentioned, we are designing for you all. What is the purpose of that workshop? I don't think I need to speak about it, because we trust me, we all have had that time of our life ki chalo struggle hua jaise bhi hua, we've reached a point where we're like 9 to 5 job bhi hai chal raha hai, we are okay, we are learning. It's for you all,
when
and
we
hence
went
we are open. Yeah.
when I went for my first job after doing my MBA, or I did couple degrees. The point was, when I went for my first job, I was like a deer in the headlight. I was I had no clue. I mean, I thought I was a good-looking guy with a healthy, good-looking guy with a lot of knowledge, great marks at school, decent enough, uh, English. I could speak well, and so I thought, oh my God, I'm the rock star, and uh, and what I did not realize was everybody else in my batch also thought the same way, because many of them were all similar to me, and um, and the interviewer who was there, he is very kind enough to make us all cry a little towards the end of the interview, because we had no clue what have we learned theoretically in the college um, versus practice. What are the practical needs of the industry? And unfortunately, Kavya, we did not have LinkedIn in that era. We didn't have a Google Meet, a Zoom, and all these, and we did not have Kavya's great energy and smile with us. And I wish I had somebody like you when I was doing it, so that I would have understood. Even if I failed at giving you few answers today, even if I got a little overwhelmed by the case study, but at least I would know that if I'm in the journey with you, if I'm working alongside of a mentor, it would have greatly helped me. In couple months I'd be completely ready for to face the world. Or I would say, like Devrishi has become confident, where he says, bring it on, come on, let's bring
Yeah,
it on. So
happens with time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think we've motivated you guys enough, but are you motivated or not? We've tried our best to do it. And so every session is not really a technical one. If you look at it, there are so many qualitative takeaways you can take from it. So it's not important if we couldn't like solve the case study, we couldn't build a model. That was genuinely not the objective of the session. I knew we'd not be able to do it in like a few hours, but then
So,
giving out a feeling that I need to do a lot of things on my own is what is was required. Yeah.
So, Kavya, can we say that this was a orientation or a part A, and we'll continue this journey in whatever is the part B, and build from there?
100%. And I'm sure those of you who've stayed till this point are aware of what they need to work on, and are also aware of what we can do together. So some sort of hands on from you guys, and some sort of it for with all of us together will help us reach that point where all of us would be one day posting on our LinkedIn that, oh, I've built a model, you want it, post your email IDs in the comments below. So you must have seen a lot of people doing it, right? And a lot of being people being flooded with messages like, can you please share it, it looks so interesting, this is so nice. So why are we not the ones who are able to share it out to everybody? Rather, if I ask each one of you individually, you would say that I want to be able to build my models, I want to be someone who knows everything about it. But are we making the conscious effort? I'm sure now we will, right? So let's do it together. And so I am a little lazy on the part where I want, or rather I would say there's this one quality I have where I want someone, not Arun this time, most of you to plan a session where you give me the topic and then I'll be there. I promise you I'll be there the moment you ask me, but the topic I won't decide. I'm lazy there. So I want you guys to do it, right? If you promise me that, you will see me more often. Otherwise, I'm known to vanish and then come again, and then I'm not there.
No,
So
Kavya,
it's a busy life.
we won't let you vanish, ma'am. What we'll do is, I and Devrishi and Vikas here, Romesh and other people, Satendra, uh, and Namrata as well. We will write a list of topics that we are most interested in. so that you can decide and prioritize, which one can you deliver and when, and we can we'll do all your help. All that you have to do is just smile at us, and then uh, let us listen to you.
Correct. So let's plan that workshop in a way that it's built by you, delivered by us, but then again, it covers everything you want us to deliver, right? Yes, Devrishi, I would be needing your help on this. Not just yours, I request all of you to contribute in the group at your level on the topics you struggle with, because those would be the ones we'll take help of to get started, right? We don't have a prerequisite, we don't have a predetermined plan of action. There's nothing prepared. The workshop is for you, it is about you, and it has to be prepared by you. That is the objective. The moment you guys are ready with a concise, set of plan of action, okay, these are the content that maybe we can cover in 5 days, then the next week you'll be having me, other great and professional people from the group deliver it to you. You want a basic session on Power BI, we'll get it arranged as a part of the workshop. But all you have to do is let us know what those topics are that have constantly troubled your life in getting cleared on. Okay? So I hope we are on that pace together. And continuing with this case study, I think I've given you all a good food for thought. I have told you what to read, what to avoid at the moment, and then what to look forward to in the future. So just try and make sure you have, or have at least picked up a company of your choice from the Indian context. So this is also a part of the workshop that, I what I have planned is that I will be giving you regular assignments and case studies as a part of the workshop, so that you feel that you're well connected to the content that is being discussed. Let's say we talked about the industry analysis. I'll be sharing a report prepared by me. Using that, you all will prepare a report on your selected companies. So feel free to choose any industry, any company of your choice. And what will be at the end of the workshop is an equity research report prepared by you. That is the objective. Yes, Vikas, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Kavya.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, nothing much. The only concern about me is that more than professional, there is a much more individual like freshers. So that was an issue going on right now. I think so.
No
I
worries,
think I
Vikas.
think Vikas raised a good point. So maybe Kavya, what we can, what I would suggest is, based upon Vikas's feedback, that we can divide the individuals into two different categories by sending, like, based upon baselining what they know and what they don't know, we can divide them into two different categories. There'll be category of uh, freshers to in this area, and some people who are relatively experienced in finance. So that way we'll be able to tailor it to a specific audience.
Correct, correct. Because I understand your concern, because, but fortunately, and also unfortunately, if you've joined late, so the sessions we had previously, the ones I took were very basic, and hence we moved to valuation now. So, but again, it's not your fault. Probably you joined late, and I would request the team to provide you the recordings, if at all it is possible, or if not, you can always consult directly on where to get started on. Trust me, if not live sessions, we have the recording somewhere available that can help you build up on those concepts. But yes, we've covered the basics one already, but again, it will be covered entirely again as a part of the upcoming sessions. In case you plan to attend it live, very well, very nice. If you still happen to miss it, don't worry, we have everything and all the recordings available. If you are serious enough to learn, I don't think we mind sharing it with you in the group, right?
And
So don't worry. Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it's all my fault, because I was trying to chase Kavya, and I didn't realize that she had couple family occasions that she had to go to, and it was post Diwali stuff. Um, Even now, like, we'll have to plan it carefully, because December is coming up. Some of you will be on vacation, some of you will be in. So please give your please give your feedback to the KGF learning channel and learning group, and based upon your feedback, we'll prioritize and we'll select a time, and uh, and Kavya will be able to help us deliver this session.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. So, any more questions, anyone? And yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot pending at our part, basis what we decided for the session. But again, reiterating that today's session was purposely a little more technical at my end because I wanted to discuss more on valuation, and there was a pre-assumption that most of you, or probably more of you, might be well aware of it. But as I realize, there's a need to impart more basic sessions first. So, you all are more than welcome to join the next one. For this, yes, we'll continue it when we are ready on the basics, and then we can always come back on the advanced level of technical concepts that are needed in finance. So no worries on that. We'll work as per you guys want us to. So yeah, I think that's all at my end. Anyone, any questions? You have any feedback? I'm open to hearing it before we leave. So, are you guys excited for the workshop? How many of you would be joining if we plan everything from scratch? Would you be able to find time in December for a 5-6 day workshop? Tell me, because I'll plan accordingly. Great. Wonderful. So, okay, any questions? Anyone from today's session? You have any doubts? If at all it was clear for all of you, I'll repeat all of these things. Don't worry in the future. But again, a lot of research is needed on our part. A lot of hard work is needed on our part, right? It has to be a collective effort. So yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful night and sleep well. And yeah, let's have a fresh week starting tomorrow.
Thank you, Kavya.
Thank
It
you
was
No
so much
great
for
worries. All
your
the
talking.
best.
time, Kavya. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll continue to work together.
For sure, for sure. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Take care and keep growing.